Hey guys, we're going to be trying out some r/entitled parents. It's been a while since I've jumped into experimental videos because the experimental videos seem to do pretty well, but I wanted to be a writing prompt channel, but it looks like writing prompts might actually be going away or at least dying out because I recently was looking through writing prompts. And a lot of what I saw was POV, you have numbers over your head, or POV, the hero and villain did this, and I just can't find anything interesting. So if you guys have any suggestions on which Reddit pages you would like me to read through, if you want more entitled parents, if you want my opinions on am I the asshole, or do you want me to just scroll through and see what catches my mind at the day, then I can totally do that. But I just need your guys' suggestions. I noticed that like 5 people are watching my videos, so you must like something. Let me know what you like and I'll read them. My parents don't like my boyfriend, so they gave me an ultimatum. Looking for experience and opinions, all are welcome. I have very little experience when it comes to dating. I am married, but I have very little experience over controlling parents when it comes to dating. So let's try this out. I'll try to make a long story short. I am an only child. I already can't relate. And my current boyfriend and I have been dating for 6 years, starting when I was 19 and he was 20. So they're 25, 26 now, or at the time of writing. We met at junior college, where we started dating, and after that, we went to different UCs, but within an hour of each other. My parents met him early on by joining us at dinner. Everything seemed to go well. Then, soon after, we went to his parents' house, who lived about 2 hours from my parents, so I could meet his family. And after learning this, my mom told me how hurt she was that she didn't come to see them too. I expressed that this weekend was for me to meet his family, but it was clear that she felt almost betrayed. I mean, isn't it important to make sure that you meet the parents before your families meet each other? That way you can gauge everyone's reaction to meeting in person. Eventually, everyone's going to meet. It's going to happen, but it is a good idea for them to meet after you know their quirks and they know your quirks, so that you can expect the drama and know how to divulge it. Fast forward, my parents invite me up to our cabin and my boyfriend joins. We take my car because it was already loaded with laundry, etc. After we drive, my dad pulls me aside and pretty much quietly yells at me how wrong it was that I drove and that we took my car. He's the man, he should be driving, blah blah blah. It's your car, and you two aren't married, I'm going to say, because you're the only one insured to drive that car. I'm going to assume this much. I'm just going to go off of organ driving because that's what I know. If you're the only one insured to drive your car and you and your spouse aren't married, then if something happens and you guys get pulled over, you can get arrested or at least fined for having an uninsured driver in your car. This started everything going forward on a sour note. The cabin is in Tahoe. It gets cold in the winter, so my boyfriend wore a sweatshirt with his hood up during some of the time at the cabin. My parents, to this day, cite this as weird and rude, as well as the reason they don't like him. It's winter. Let him wear his hoodie. And if he's so extremely embarrassed that he actually heard your father saying that he's a man, he should drive, then I would have my hood up too. I mean, it gets cold up in Tahoe, that I hear apparently. I've never been anywhere outside of the Pacific Northwest. And if it's cold, your head's gonna get cold. So the best way to keep yourself from feeling the cold is by trapping all of the areas that your heat can escape, which is your feet, your hands, and your head. So having your hood up isn't that odd. My husband has his hood up in the house all the time, even in the winter. I don't find it odd or rude or weird. It's just a thing that he does. Let him be. Let him have his hood up. It's a hood. If you want him to put it down, you can ask nicely and say, can you put your hood down and maybe join the rest of us? And if he says no, respect that decision. If he says yes, he'll take it down and it'll all be fine. As we continue our relationship, it's clear that my parents just don't like him. but they can't really give up at what I call good or justifiable reasons. They'll say he's not a good fit for the family. They don't tell me to stop dating him, because they can't, I'm an adult, but they do tell me that I need to keep them and him separate. They don't want to really hear about him, and he's not welcome at their house or cabin. He has never cheated on me, abused me. He has no drug problem, etc. Nothing that a normal parent would cite as a problem. Well, now I don't know what advice I can give you, because looking at the air of him, any of those reasons would be a very good reason for your parents to not like him. But he seems like a great guy already. So what? He puts his hood up when he's cold. So what? You drove your own car. When my husband and I take our cars out, I drive my car, he drives his car. That's how it goes, because that's our cars. We know how to drive our cars. It's not that big of a deal. Eventually, it became an ultimatum given to me by my parents. They'd tell me that if you continue to date him, eventually it will either be us or him, and you will have to choose. Among other things, they would tell me he'd never be an attorney, which is what he wanted to do, and insinuating that he probably wouldn't be much of anything after all. After undergrad, I started working at a financial firm. He graduated from undergrad at UC Berkeley and was accepted to law school across the country. We were always very serious about each other and made the decision to do long distance until he graduated and moved back to California. My boyfriend has since graduated from law school, congratulations, moved home, and took the bar last month. Let me guess, he passed the bar, he's a lawyer, he's doing great now. I love it. Now, 6 years into our relationship, I call my parents and tell them that we're going to be moving in together. About 20 minutes later, I get a text from my mom saying that she doesn't want to rain on my parade, but this path excludes her and my dad from my future. That they love me, but they can't be in my life since if I choose to be with my boyfriend. I told them I would never understand. Since then, they have sent me more and more texts saying stuff like, "We feel like we're losing our daughter. This is heartbreaking," etc. And at the same time, including that this is my choice and my fault. I texted my parents that I thought my boyfriend and I should come over and talk. That texting about this kind of thing is stupid, but not to be patronized or belittled, and if it turned into screaming, that we would leave. My parents then replied that they wanted to see me face to face to talk, but that my boyfriend isn't allowed. My boyfriend even called my father in the night of the initial "we can't be part of your life" text to try and talk or meet up and see if there was a way to talk through any legitimate concerns. My dad did not answer and responded a week plus later, only to text him that they never ever liked him and that he wants to work through it with me alone. It's mine and my boyfriend's fault for not trying to address things earlier. Wait, how is this all your fault? You brought him to meet your parents, and aside from the whole, so the start of the whole, quote, betrayal is because you went to his parents' house after going to your parents' house so you could meet his parents, and it was a problem. And then you guys went up to a cabin together, and he was cold, so he wore his hoodie, and your parents thought that that was wrong. And you drove instead of him. You drove your car, and your parents thought that was wrong. Now you're moving in together, which as an adult, you two have the right to decide to do. And your parents say that you're ruining your life by being with someone you've been with for years. And this is just controlling. This is all just too controlling. Among other reasons not to like my boyfriends were Berkeley isn't a man's college from my dad. One time in college, my professor lost my final exam, and when I found out my final grades and was frantically calling her to figure out what happens, my parents told my boyfriend, "See, this is why we didn't want her to have a boyfriend in college." They found ways to blame him for everything. The only thing that ever had any merit was that he wasn't working yet. Well, this is because he was going to school to be a lawyer. Apparently marrying someone who will make a lot of money is a bad thing? My boyfriend is the nicest, most calm and peaceful person ever, and he loves me more than anything, but apparently their pride is more important than being wrong and accepting him. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if this is normal. It is not. Or if it's as wrong as it feels to my boyfriend and I. It is very wrong. Boyfriend, as well as my parents and myself, are the same race, somewhat similar financial status as well. Okay, so what I'm hearing is your parents don't like him because... I can't even think of an excuse for this. Why would your parents not like him? Yeah, he wore a hoodie when he was cold. You drove your own car. You went to meet his parents without your parents. What next? I mean, he wasn't working in college, and you probably should think about doing that. But at the same time, he's going to be making a lot of money as a lawyer. We're going to assume that as a lawyer, he's going to make a lot of money. And if you marry him before he makes all that money, then that money is partially yours, which means you'll have a lavish, perfect lifestyle that your parents should be wanting you to dream to have. But instead, they're like, oh, you can't marry this guy, you can't be with this guy because he's weird. And your professor losing your final exam, and your parents blame that on you having a boyfriend, that's not even your fault. That's not even his fault. That is no way connected to either of you. You turned in your exam, which makes it no longer your responsibility. It was your professor's responsibility. If anything, they should be blaming the professor, not you. That is the one time I am all for people calling the teacher and saying, why are you messing up my child's future? They lost an exam. You didn't fail it and then your parents are like, oh, I need to talk to your elementary teacher about what's going on. No, it's not even his fault. No, none of this is normal, and it is all completely wrong. Honestly, I think you should do it anyway. Move in with your boyfriend, have a future with your boyfriend, and to rub it in your parents' face, don't block them on social media. Just keep them on social media and consistently rub it in their face about how amazing your life is and how happy you are because you, according to them, chose him over them. Lady, I told you your kids weren't old enough for this class. Don't blame me when they get hurt. First time posting here, but boy do I have some stories, so sorry for the long post. I tend to give too many details. I work as an instructor teaching parkour and free running basics to small kids ages 2 to 6, and most of my classes are in private institutions like schools and specialized gyms. I say basics, but it's really more bodily control and perception than bona fide parkour since they're really young. So you're teaching kids to stop before they run into walls is what I'm hearing. I separate kids based on age and skill into different classes, then challenge them accordingly, having the older kids dip their toes into actual parkour and free running skills. On to the story. I had this mother, henceforth EM, entitled Mom, of 2 kids, EK1 and 2, ages 2 and 3 respectively. Come for a test class to see if the kids are interested. The kids enjoy the class since I try to make them both challenging and fun by playing games where they have to traverse obstacle courses, and I try to set up scenarios for them to use their imaginations, such as, the pirate ship is sinking, we have to jump into the lifeboats, etc. The administration later lets me know they enrolled and all is well. So it is bodily control, like stopping before you run into walls. That's actually a really great idea. Because if your kid runs into a wall, like my brother did once, he's going to turn around and look at Dad and go, I'm going to call CPS on you. And my dad literally handed him the phone and said, here you go, call him. Not my fault you got hit. Well, ran into something, didn't get hit. Now, something to know about my classes is that even though they're taught in a special, order-made room, and I have most surfaces padded and am super paranoid about accidents, so I do my best to keep a safe environment, Some kids can take a fall, especially if they aren't following instructions or throw tantrums. That's gonna happen. You can't really fault a parent or a supervisor or something when a kid gets hurting themselves. This was the case when EK 1 and 2, since they were always refusing to listen and This was the case with EK 1 and 2, since they were always refusing to listen to instructions and threw tantrums when I tried to explain why they couldn't just run off to play in the room as if it was a playground, which it absolutely isn't. After a couple of weeks of this, entitled mother comes to my classroom to tell me, ask, mind you, that her kids are ready for the advanced classes, which is kids aged 5 and 6, because they have grown bored of the kiddie class since they are so much better than the other kids, which they are not. I politely let her know that although they are indeed pretty active kids, they first have to become responsible for their actions, since they tend to push other kids around and not listen to instructions. Therefore, they are not yet ready to take the older kids class, which is way tougher. And I can't just follow 2 kids around to take care of them and neglect the rest of the class, since there could be an accident. These are not in any way big groups. I only take groups of 5 kids at most, since it's all I can handle on my own to make sure every kid is as safe as possible. But having to take care of underage kids and leaving 3 other kids unattended is a no-no in my book. Entitled Mom doesn't seem to take my words kindly, but accepts my decision, or so I thought. Next week I come in to have the receptionist tell me Entitled Mom had basically thrown a tantrum to have her kids go into the advanced class anyway, despite my warnings, and asks me if I can just let it slide this time. Obviously I'm not okay with this, as it endangers not only entitled kids, but other kids as well. I can see her storming into my classroom again, angrier this time if I say no. So I asked the front desk to have her sign an additional waiver to one she already had to sign to enroll the kids. The day comes when I have to teach the advanced class, and in comes marching with a smug grin none other than Entitled Mom and Entitled Kids. I welcome them in and start my class, which, as I said, is way more demanding and has some actual parkour techniques sprinkled in. It would be unfair to the age-appropriate kids to downplay the class just because these entitled kids enrolled, so I don't. However, I keep a close eye on them to avoid any issues. That day, the kids had to clear a small gap jump and latch onto an edge wall and shimmy along while hanging. Picture hanging movement in the Assassin's Creed series. Everything but the floor is padded, of course. However, it's a substantial fall for kids that age, about 1.5 meters. As I'm helping one of the older kids shimmy along, I can see the next in line to make the jump is the elder of the entitled siblings, the 3-year-old. And I ask her to wait for me so I can spot her jump in case her hands slip and she doesn't clear the gap. She starts throwing a tantrum about how she's a big girl now and she can do it on her own, to which I respond to just let me be there to make sure she doesn't get hurt. I run back to help her after helping the other kid reach the ground and help her reach the wall since she couldn't clear the gap, to which she goes absolutely mad and storms out of the classroom. 5 minutes later, she jumps back in with Entitled Mother, demanding that I let her jump on her own. I once again explain that this is a bad idea, and we run the circuit once again. Again, I'm helping the kid lapping before her, and I ask her to wait for me. But instead of listening, she jumps onto the wall, fails to clear the gap, crashes into the wall face first, then plops on the ground, knocking the wind out of her. And she broke her nose and got a bloody nose, right? Because that would be my first thought. I rush to check if she's unhurt, which thankfully she is, aside from the fall, and she starts swiping at me, and once she recovers, starts bawling her eyes out and storms out of the classroom again. I think the bloody nose would have helped. Every child I've ever known thinks maybe I should stop or slow down when they see a bloody nose. I have some more stories of this kind since the extracurricular activities tend to have these kinds of incidents and draw in entitled people. So let me know if you want to hear more, and I'll try to post some of mine and my coworker stories here. Thanks for the huge support. I'll be posting other stories I've picked up over the years and ask coworkers to share theirs. Lots of love. So what I'm hearing is these kids possibly developed a lot faster than their other counterparts when they were infants. Like, they were rolling over faster, they were crawling faster, they were grasping faster, that kind of stuff. And mom's like, oh, my kids are so advanced, they should go to this parkour class thing and learn to handle their bodies, which, sure, that's a good idea, but at the same time, you should keep them in age-appropriate class. Like, they're 2 and 3 years old. The 2-year-old is just learning how to run. And the 3-year-old, I'm not going to use pronouns. The 2-year-old is learning how to run, and the 3-year-old is just now figuring out what stopping is. We can't assume that these kids know what they're doing, because mom's probably going to be thinking they're so advanced for their age that they can do whatever they want. And then asking the teacher to put them, a 2 and 3-year-old, in classes of 5 and 6. That's not, no matter how advanced your child is, they are not physically advanced enough to jump as high or as far or as wide as a 5 and 6-year-old can. Like, I have a niece, she's 18 months old, she's just learning how to walk and run. It's insane. I also have a 5-year-old nephew, and he can walk and run like nobody else's business. You have no idea how much fun it is watching him chase the chickens in my parents' backyard. But if we put my niece in the backyard, we have to keep the chickens away from her, obviously, because she'll go after the chickens, she'll see that they're the same size as her, and they'll turn around and start going after her, and then we have to chase the chickens, trying to get them away from her. It's funny to think about, but it's not funny to act on. And the idea of a 2-year-old jumping a gap that a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old will go by younger ages. A 2-year-old jumping a gap that a 5-year-old could possibly get over, and then latching onto a wall edge, like in Assassin's Creed, just like hanging from their little fingers. They're teeny tiny, little tiny fingers. They can't hold on to things with those fingers. They can barely grasp their string cheese. You think they're gonna hold on to a wall? I obviously don't have kids. But yeah, you're not in the wrong in this. This entitled mom is just setting her kids up for constant failures, and she's the one who's doing wrong. If anything, the best idea is to just flat out refuse and remind her of the constant waivers that she has signed saying that you are not responsible for them getting hurt because you insisted that they go into a class that was too advanced for them. Well, guys, that was r/entitled parents with the, I'm going to go with sexist parents, because assuming that a man should drive just because he's the man is pretty sexist. And then the mom who obviously wants to get a seriously big cash payout because her children got hurt playing a game. Anyway, guys, if you have any other suggestions for me, any videos you want me to try out, or any pages you want me to read through, let me know in the comments, or send me a DM on Instagram, because I have an Instagram apparently. Or you can just post random stuff online on my own Reddit page, r/fictional Reddit, where you can post anything you want, and it's obviously all fake because it's fictional. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, guys, like the video if you liked it. Comment down below any suggestions, anything you want me to do better, anything you want me to improve, anything you want me to change. And don't forget to subscribe, because subscriptions let me know you guys love these videos. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.